It's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about time travel, how to use a time travel storyline in role-playing games. This is something a lot of GMs feel very, very threatened by, something that seems like a tremendous headache, and if you do it wrong, it absolutely can be. But there's a lot of really great precedents out there for great time travel storylines. I think one of the main problems is people tend to overuse it when they start using it. They say, oh, we're going to go all around, we're going to go back in time and forward and back and forward and monkey around with things. That very, very quickly gets really complicated and messy. Especially since, your characters might be able to keep track of it, or they might not. But you trying to keep track of what your character knows is always going to be harder than what it really should be. We're never going to have 100% immersion. So once it gets to a certain degree of complexity, it's like the character probably could keep it straight, but through the lens of my character, I've lost track of what's going on. And then there's a meta problem there. But how would I do time travel? How do I do time travel? Just like I do a lot of things, I keep it very simple. I usually try to stick to one event. We'll travel through time once, and that's like it. That's our story. Maybe in the future of this world, of this setting of the story, there will be other time travelers, other storylines. We're probably not going to explore them. And if we do, it'll be one at a time. So basically, I'm building the campaign to include just one time travel event. Typically, there can always be exceptions, but let's start simple. Let's lay an easy foundation, and we can build up on that later if we need to. So there's a couple time travel stories that jump right out at me. Things that we can steal, that we can borrow. So let's look at the Terminator. I love the Terminator. So in the Terminator, we have our setting, which in the film is like modern day, I believe it's Los Angeles. But we can switch that out for any setting. We could take, feudal Japan, and we have samurai and ninja running around. And into that setting, we have one anomalous character, or two. In the Terminator, it's actually two, but you only need one. So we have one anomalous character show up, and they're saying, I'm from the future. I know what's going to happen, and I'm here to stop it. They're here to save the future, to change the future. This is a great storyline. There's so many angles you can take, because you can be the samurai and the ninja who suddenly have this person show up from Neo-Tokyo in the year 3000, and they're coming back and saying, we need to change things. There's a battle, there's an invasion, there's a religious revolution, there's a plague, whatever he's come back in time to change. That's part of your world that he's changing. He's an outsider. He's meddling in your business, right? And in the case of the Terminator, of course, it's a cyborg trying to kill someone because that someone has an important destiny. And you can do that gimmick too. Have an assassin show up. But why not a doctor coming back in time to the Black Death to cure it, to change history and say, what if the Black Death never happened? I can go back in time and make it never happen. Right? And are you going to play the knights and the clergy of that day who are looking at this person who seems in some ways to have magic and who seems to have foreknowledge? Or are you going to be the time travelers and you're in the past and you're having to deal with these primitives? Or can you mix the group? Josh is going to play a time traveler, Mike is going to play a feudal baron, but they're going to form a hot tag team and eliminate the bubonic plague, and this other NPC is trying to stop them. This other knight is trying to stop them. That could be a great campaign, or a mini campaign, or even a one-shot. but it's simple enough to keep track of, but it's got that great time travel element. And then if you want, you can have him go, back to the future of this new timeline, and see what he's done. Or perhaps not. Perhaps it was a one-way trip. So just using the example of the Terminator, that's a great example. X-Men used the exact same storyline. Cable came back in time, and he said, Apocalypse is going to take over the world. I've been through that horror. I've got to come back and stop it. And you have Bishop, and he said, well, Cable changed the timeline, and now the Sentinels take over the world, so I have to stop Cable. And then the time travelers get in a fight over the future, over whose future is valid. And they don't want either of their futures to be valid. And they're trying to manipulate things, and you can do that if you try really hard, try to keep it simple. The number of time travelers low, the number of time traveling events very low, and you can certainly achieve some really fun storylines. So that's my first example. I'll take maybe like 5 more minutes and talk about another really good example, and that's from Dragonball Z, which is an anime. It's like a superhero martial arts anime. But basically, you have these androids released, super-powered androids. Think Ultron. And they're basically eliminating humanity, Terminator style, Matrix style, except with more superpowers. Because you have superhumans fighting back. But they're unstoppable. So you get to see the apocalypse, the horror, the terror, and then the hope. Let's transpose this. Let's say it's a zombie apocalypse. The zombies rise up, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dead, Walking Dead. There are zombies. We see the first zombies, we see society collapse, we're role-playing through all of it, trying to survive, and then maybe we come on this abandoned science facility. Maybe there's one scientist still working there. And for us, this is like session 20. And we're like, oh, this is weird. But, hey, can you help us? We're trying to hide from the zombies. And the mad scientist, is saying, we've got to go back. And he wants to send you back and stop the apocalypse from happening. So you're now playing a character who's lived through the apocalypse, and you've role-played through it. Now you're the time traveler. Right? So instead of putting that off-screen and in the backstory, bring it at the forefront. And you can have the time travel element just be the finale of your post-apocalypse or apocalyptic campaign. What if you're playing through the new Fallout video game and you get the time machine, you go back in time and you invent the transistor and eliminate the Fallout universe and you recreate the real world as we know it today. Maybe if the world today was only here because you went back in time and invented the transistor, and if you hadn't done that, we would be in Fallout. Great storylines can be affected through time travel. Whether you are the one living through events and then going back to change them, or whether you're carrying on about your daily life and somebody shows up who lived through events that they want to change, both can be very interesting. And of course, you can always do something like, getting thrown back, entrapped in the past. That's an easy one to do. The last one I'll mention very briefly is if you have an apocalypse in your background, if we have Atlantis, a very easy thing to do is go back in time to Atlantis just before it sank. Because no matter what you do, it's going to sink and the evidence will be erased, so you can't mess up the timeline, so you can easily go back into the future again. So that's a very easy one that you can do as well. And of course, I've been talking a lot about sci-fi, but you can use this magically. Chronomancy. You have a demonic incursion, you see it, you live through it, you try to fight it, you can't stop it. Hell wins, and then this chronomancer or this angel, grabs you and he throws you back in time, or she throws you back in time. you arrive before the start of the campaign. You're like, oh my god, it's session 30, but now we know what's going to happen. Maybe we can stop it, and you can play through that. That can be tremendously fun. So that's all I'm going to take up of your time today. Go back in time, watch the video again, tell me what I could have changed, and then I will go back in time and re-record it better, just as I have done before. And until I see you again, good day and good gaming.